homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all sentient beings, please give rise to the Supreme Bodhicitta. Now, let us continue our study. In the 6th chapter of the Bodhicharyavatara, we are now discussing the second point, the manner of giving one's body. Regarding the manner of giving one's body, the verse says, "For minor ends, don't harm this body that is for practicing true Dharma. By doing so, you'll soon fulfill the wishes of all sentient beings. We must never intentionally harm the support for practicing the true Dharma, this body, because it is by practicing the true Dharma with this body, we will be able to attain accomplishments, so we cannot harm our own body. With this very body, we can not only fulfill the wishes of all sentient beings and ourselves, but also attain the state of perfect enlightenment. So, relying on this body, we can obtain many temporary and ultimate benefits. As practitioners, everyone should be clear that without this body, it is impossible to generate bodhicitta, to help sentient beings, to benefit others, or to practice the Dharma. All of these depend entirely on our precious human life with freedoms and advantages. Once we have such a human life, we have the opportunity to achieve all that. Therefore, unless there is a very great necessity, we must never carelessly harm the body. For example, if someone says, "Can you cut off some flesh from your body for me? I am very hungry today and want to eat a meal," you should not immediately cut off a piece of flesh from your buttocks or elsewhere to give to them. Because for others it is not necessary to eat your flesh. They can eat the meat of an animal that has already died, or some wild vegetables, or something else. One meal can be solved in many ways. But if, as an ordinary being, you cut open your own body and cook your flesh for someone else to eat, you are very likely to regret it. So, unless there is a truly significant benefit, you must never harm your own body. This is very important. Nowadays, some people harm their bodies for no meaningful reason. This is really unreasonable. If there is truly meaningful purpose, such as making an offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas with one's body, then it might be okay. As I mentioned when teaching the 2nd chapter earlier, offering your body, such as burning a finger as offering, should be carefully examined too. The Lotus Sutra, the Shurangama Sutra, and other scriptures do clearly record the inconceivable merit of offering to the Buddha by burning one's finger. But as ordinary beings, we must first examine whether our own mind and capacity is ready for that. Otherwise, we may regret. If great regret arises, it will certainly destroy our own roots of virtue. So, in the past, Mipham Rinpoche especially emphasized this point. When some people burned their fingers as an offering in his presence, he would sternly criticize them. There is also such practice in Han Buddhism, which I have introduced before, so I will not elaborate here. When His Holiness first went to Nyerong, I think it was around 1985, he went there to revive the Dharma. There was a monastic who insisted on making an offering by burning his finger in front of His Holiness. At that time, His Holiness said, "I find this a bit frightening. You might as well make the offering in front of the Terma statue of Padmasambhava in the monastery, but do not do it in front of me." Later, when giving teachings, His Holiness would often mention this. Many people wanted to make such offerings in his presence, but he refused them all. "If you must do it in front of the Buddha statue, not in front of me." Because, as His Holiness said, this is hard to say. Sometimes it may bring great merit, but sometimes it may lead to great regret. Of course, in Tibetan Buddhism, there is a tradition of making this offering. In the past, Karma Chakme Rinpoche once aspired to burn his finger in front of the Shamarpa Choki Wangchuk. In his presence, Karma Chakme Rinpoche wanted to make this offering. Then Shamarpa asked him, "Is your meditative concentration stable? If not, you will not be able to bear the pain while your finger is burning." Karma Chakme Rinpoche replied, "I have very pure meditative concentration. Even if my body were cut into pieces, I would not generate conceptual thought." Then the master required him to abide in his meditative state before making the offering, and accepted his offering in this way. So this did happen in the history in Tibetan Buddhism. But regardless, one should examine whether there is any significant benefit. If there is not especially great benefit for this and future lives, then you should not intentionally harm the body. Otherwise, as we mentioned before, it is very easy to lose faith and develop regret during the process. So in order to have the support for practicing Dharma, we must protect our body. Why should we protect our body? As we have often discussed, the body has many faults and is impure in nature. We have learned before how the body brings many faults and why it is impure in nature. So why protect it? Just as Aryadeva said in the 400 verses, though you see the body as an enemy, still you should protect it. Although we see the body as an enemy as practitioners, we must rely on it and therefore must protect it. If it lives long with discipline, it can create great merit. Those who uphold the precepts and live long can accomplish great virtue. In his commentary on the 400 verses, Candrakirti gives an analogy to illustrate this. For example, there is a merchant whose son commits a crime together with other thieves. The merchant locks his son in prison. Although the father sees his son's bad deeds and negative habits, he does not abandon him, because he depends on his son to inherit him, so the family will have a future. Therefore, he skillfully tames him and brings him back to the right path. In the same way, when we examine our body, its components, and many negative actions it committed in the past, we see that the body has many faults, like an enemy, but we should not easily abandon it, but do our best to protect it, because we rely on it to accumulate merit and fulfill the bodhicitta aspiration to benefit sentient beings. So relying on the body is like a family relying on its heir to complete all its affairs. As Buddhists, without relying on the body, we truly cannot accomplish the Buddha's work. In our daily speech, we should never encourage others to harm their bodies or suggest suicide, even as a joke. We shouldn't even joke about such things under any circumstances. I remember once a woman called me and said, "I'm so upset. What should I do?" I jokingly said, "Why not just go jump in the river then?" She took it seriously, or at least pretended to, and actually went to the riverbank. She called from there, "I'm at the river now. Tell me how to jump in." I panicked a little and told her, "What are you doing? Come back at once." Later, I reflected, maybe she doesn't really want it to jump, or else she wouldn't have called me. Maybe she was hesitating to do it, so she called me again, wishing to get my consolation. But in any case, joking in this way is just not appropriate, no matter under what circumstance. Some Dharma friends jokingly said, "We want to make offerings to the teacher. I heard that human flesh can cure illness. Do you think we should slice off a piece of our own flesh and make it an offering to the teacher?" Even if it's just a joke, some simple-minded people may take it to heart. They might even really do it if they have great faith in their teacher. I recall once a foreign journalist interviewed Gyalwa Rinpoche and asked, "What is the thing you regret most in your life?" Gyalwa Rinpoche replied, "There is one thing I regret most. Once, someone asked me to perform transference of consciousness for him. I replied casually, half jokingly, 'After you die, I'll do it for you.' I just said this casually, but unexpectedly the person immediately committed suicide. I realized that it was my casual joke that had led to this person's unfortunate death. I deeply regretted it, but since it had already happened, there was nothing I could do except try my best to perform the transference for him." So, whether intentionally or unintentionally, we must never carelessly harm our own bodies. Some foolish people, when their practice is not going well or they feel unhappy, use various methods to torment their bodies. This is extremely unreasonable. We should think, in this life, I have obtained such a precious human life. I must rely on it to practice Bodhi. It is the great boat of liberation, and with it I can practice virtue. May I live a long life, and may my body stay healthy and strong. The power of our aspiration is truly incredible, and we should make such aspiration. Last year, I heard that in Chamdol Lhasa, there was a 95-year-old man who prostrated 100 times every day. 100 prostrations a day from a 95-year-old. Living like this truly gives meaning to life. Even if we don't do 100 prostrations, just 3, living in this world is still meaningful. The merit of prostration is so great. If we were reborn in other realms, would we have such convenient opportunities opportunities to accumulate merit? Absolutely not. However, some people develop excessive aversion toward their bodies. The Vinaya records that some bhikshus, after practicing contemplation on the impurity of the body, developed such extreme aversion that they committed suicide. The Buddha strictly prohibited this, saying that although the body has many faults, as a bhikshu one must not commit suicide, otherwise one commits the fault of killing a divine being. Though the body has faults, liberation is attained through relying on it. Anyway, it is essential to recognize the truth that only by relying on the body can we practice the Dharma, gradually achieve Buddhahood, and fulfill all the wishes of beings. What are the wishes of sentient beings? All sentient beings who wish for happiness. By relying on the body, we can teach the Dharma to beings, help them generate bodhicitta, plant the seed of enlightenment, and ultimately attain the fruitions of the three vehicles. If we lose the body, it is very difficult to have such opportunities. Of course, as practitioners, we should not be overly attached to the body either. If, like some worldly people, we are especially attached to the body, that's just unreasonable. People are often too obsessed with their bodies. They fixate on having a beautiful body and use all sorts of methods to maintain and beautify it. This is unnecessary. No matter how much we are attached to it or how much we care for it, in reality, it is composed of impure substances. But we also should not develop aversion and abandon it. That is also unreasonable. Therefore, in our attitude toward the body, we should not fall into extremes. Historically, the way people regarded the body was somewhat different from today. I once read an ancient story. There was a beautiful woman who, while washing her hands by the river, rolled up her sleeves a bit, exposing her arms, and happened to be seen by a man. When she returned home, she felt her body was defiled because it was seen by a man, so she no longer wanted it. But nowadays, people's attitudes are perhaps completely the opposite. They feel it is meaningful only if others see their bodies. So, in terms of how to view the body, worldly people and practitioners are completely different, but we should not fall into either extreme. We should make good use of the body and rely on it to attain Bodhi. This is the proper way to view our body, and everyone should be clear about this. The next verse says this: unless your compassionate intent is pure, don't sacrifice your body, but give it as a cause to achieve great aims in this and in the next. This verse means that we must be clear about when we can give our body and offer it to sentient beings. Before your compassion is completely pure, you should not casually give away your body. Whether in this life or in future lives, only if there is truly great benefit for sentient beings should you consider giving up your body. The Buddha has also permitted this in the scriptures. What is the boundary for compassionate intent being pure? The Indian master Pranavadana said, when you have realized the equality of self and others, or equanimity toward friends and enemies, then your compassionate intent is pure. Generally, this begins from the first bhumi and above, when the equality of self and others is fully realized. Therefore, in some treatises and commentaries, it is said that from the first bhumi onward, the compassionate intent is pure, because at that stage, one has already directly realized the true nature of all phenomena. If you have not yet attained the first bhumi, and you see a pitiful person and casually offer your body to them, this is not reasonable. Of course, as His Holiness said, among ordinary beings there are very few exceptions who offer their bodies without regret, such as Dharma Lord Atisha's teacher. Even as an ordinary being, he had extremely strong compassion and could offer his body to beings without any regret. But for most ordinary beings, if you really offer your body, you will likely feel regret. If regret arises, then your original accumulated merit will be destroyed. In the extensive biography of Buddha Shakyamuni, there are many stories that say, when the Buddha gave his body in his previous lives, others did not believe. He had no regret. He would then say, if I did not feel regret, may my body be restored in an instant. As soon as he finished speaking, his body would indeed be restored as before. This is the level of a bodhisattva of the first bhumi and above. At that time, giving the body not only benefits beings, but also brings no pain to oneself. As Candrakirti says in the introduction to the Middle Way, even if one's flesh is cut off piece by piece, there is not the slightest pain. Bodhisattva Maitreya also says in the relevant treatises, after attaining the noble path, one is free from all the sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death. So, the boundary for pure compassionate intent begins from the first bhumi. At that point, one will not generate any regret when giving their own body, and it is truly beneficial to beings. Also, they can also restore their own body through the power of their true words. His Holiness has also told this story before, and you may remember it clearly. For example, if you feel regret, your body cannot be restored. Just like the story of Aryadeva, although there are different historical accounts, the version mainly told by His Holiness is based on the wish-fulfilling tree. At that time, Aryadeva was with Nagarjuna, and some non-Buddhists, led by Ashvaghosha, challenged them to a debate. So Nagarjuna sent Aryadeva to debate them. Of course, according to some historical accounts, such as Red Annals and Bhutan's history of Buddhism in India and its spread to Tibet, Nagarjuna and Aryadeva were separated by 2 generations. His Holiness mainly followed the wish-fulfilling tree. It is said that before going, Aryadeva first had a debate with Nagarjuna. Aryadeva assumed the non-Buddhist position and debated with Nagarjuna. The debate went very well. Then Nagarjuna assumed the non-Buddhist, and Aryadeva represented the Buddhist side. As the debate went on, Nagarjuna became more and more forceful. At the peak of the debate, Aryadeva saw Nagarjuna as a real non-Buddhist. Nagarjuna really seemed to have become a non-Buddhist teacher. Aryadeva felt unhappy and dissatisfied, and took off his shoe and struck his master on the head. Nagarjuna said, "If you go to debate the non-Buddhist, you will surely win. But because you struck your master with your shoe, you will definitely encounter an obstacle on the way." Aryadeva replied, "If so, I'd rather not go. Why don't you go instead?" Nagarjuna said, "If I go, even though I am a Bodhisattva prophesied by the Buddha, I will not win." The reason traces back to the Buddha's time when you made such an aspiration. In a previous life, you were the Bhikshu Kanatipa under the Buddha. At that time, the Buddha was teaching the Dharma to his disciples, and a crow flew overhead, dropping excrement on the Buddha's golden body. The Buddha prophesied, "This crow will become a powerful non-Buddhist in the future and will harm the Buddha's teachings." Among the Sangha, one bhikshu made a vow, "When this crow destroys the Buddha's teachings in the future, I vow to subdue him." The one who made this vow was you, Aryadeva, and the crow was Ashvaghosha, who has now become a non-Buddhist. Due to the ripening of this aspiration, if you go this time, you will definitely be able to subdue Ashvaghosha. So Nagarjuna insisted that Aryadeva should go. On the way, he rested under a tree. A tree goddess appeared before him and asked for his eye. Aryadeva thought, "Since I have generated bodhicitta, I should offer my body." Aryadeva then gouged out one of his eyes and offered it to her. Unexpectedly, she immediately smashed it on the ground. Seeing this, Aryadeva felt a bit of regret. "She didn't use it and smashed the eye in front of me, yet I still have a long journey ahead. What a pity! Why did this happen?" Because of this regret at that time, his eye did not recover. When he later met the non-Buddhist Ashvaghosha, he still had only one eye. When Ashvaghosha saw him, he mocked him. "Why has a blind man come to me?" At that time, Aryadeva replied, "The wrathful deity has 3 eyes, but he cannot see the ultimate truth. Indra, with 1,000 eyes, also cannot see the ultimate reality. I, Aryadeva, with 1 eye, can see all the truths of the 3 realms." He then debated with Ashvaghosha and won. So from this story we can see, as His Holiness said, it is clear that if regret arises, the body cannot be restored. In the extensive biography of Buddha Shakyamuni, we read that the body that was given could be restored, showing that the compassionate intent was completely pure. So, before reaching this state, one should not offer the body. Nowadays, some lay practitioners, after reading the extensive biography, say that these are myths. I've heard that a few lay practitioners even publicly claim that these are just myths. I have not met them. Otherwise, I would very much like to debate with them. Actually, these people are quite pitiable. If Buddha Shakyamuni's practice of the 6 paramitas his offering of his body over countless lifetimes is just a myth, then these lay practitioners themselves can also be characters in a myth. Such people have not studied Buddhism in depth. Their mind is filled only with materialistic beliefs, so it is understandable that they lack faith in the inconceivable states of Buddhism. Sometimes it is understandable that they have doubts, but it is unreasonable to speak recklessly in public without any reason. Otherwise, unwise people will also think if the Buddha's stories are all myths, Buddhism will become nothing but a mythological drama. To say that the Buddha's biography is a myth, this kind of claim can be refuted both by scientific reasoning and by Buddhist logic. The Buddha's practice of the 6 paramitas and countless virtuous deeds can withstand any scientific scrutiny, practical examination, and, of course, historical investigation. These people have no valid reason for their claims. They have not studied Buddhism deeply. It's like someone who has never studied electricity, knows nothing about electricity, saying that the sound coming from a radio is not real, or that all the components inside a tape recorder are fake. If you've never delved into it deeply, such claims are truly laughable. So before realizing the profound states of the Buddha, one should not casually judge the truths of Buddhism. After all, our own conceptual thought is extremely limited, while the Buddha's view, practice, and conduct are boundlessly vast. In such a stark contrast, trying to impress others with our own limited understanding is unlikely to be impressive. The various deeds of the Buddha conducted for sentient beings over countless lifetimes are beyond the measure not only of ordinary beings like us, but even of Shravaka Arhats and Bodhisattvas on the Bhumis. When the Buddha attained enlightenment and debated with Mara, the earth goddess appeared as a witness and said, "If all the earth were rolled into pellets, I could count their number, but the number of times the Buddha has given his head, eyes, and brain for the benefit of beings since beginningless time, I could never calculate." So, the Buddha's vast accomplishments over countless lifetimes is not something that can be dismissed with ordinary conceptual thought. If someone has committed such negative speech, they should sincerely confess and spend some time studying the extensive biography of Buddha Shakyamuni. I also mentioned the Buddha's qualities briefly in the preface to the extensive biography. Nowadays, some people have never studied Buddhism in depth, not to mention the 5 great treatises. They have only read some Buddhist stories, most of which were written by materialists. Such people, lacking systematic Buddhist education, often say things that slander the Dharma, but in reality they truly lack wisdom. If one lacks wisdom, it's better not to behave indiscreetly, otherwise one will definitely be filled with deep regret in old age. If one accumulates merit relying on the Buddha as the object, the merit is inconceivable. But if one carelessly creates negative karma, saying the Buddha's biography is just a myth, or the Buddha's teachings are unreasonable, such faults are truly terrifying. So I hope everyone, whether it is those present here or anyone who learns the teachings later, will receive proper Buddhist education. Otherwise, not to mention attaining the states of bodhisattvas, they may find even basic Buddhist principles to be difficult to understand and grasp. So I sincerely hope you will understand the meaning of Dharma through proper channels. If the extensive biography were truly just a collection of myths, I don't think His Holiness would like to tell such empty stories. Sometimes, hearing such words is truly frightening. So, I speak frankly to point out these negative behaviors, hoping those who hold this view will correct themselves. Otherwise, they will only bear the consequences of karma. To obtain a human life, study the Dharma, and yet create enormous negative karma is truly a great pity. Returning to the main topic, unless your compassionate intent is pure, you must not casually offer your body. But if it brings great benefit for accumulating merit in this and future lives, eliminating obstacles or helping beings, especially if it makes a significant contribution to the flourishing of the Dharma, then offering your body is permissible. For example, the renowned Tibetan scholar Yeshe resolutely gave up his own life in order to invite Lord Atisha to the snowland and revive the Dharma. So, if you know that it will bring great benefit in this and future lives, and you're absolutely certain that you will not feel regret regret, then you can offer your body. Before that, you should benefit beings through other means. Otherwise, at first, you may think your motivation is very pure and think there is no problem in cutting off a piece of flesh or giving your body when someone asks, just as the Buddha did in the Biographies. But these stories are mostly about the states of the first bhumi or above before reaching that level. You cannot give up your body lightly, because at that stage offering your body is like offering a vegetable. There is no pain or attachment. So at that time, giving the body is permitted. This text sometimes says to offer the body and sometimes not. Are these two statements contradictory? They are not. If you know there is great benefit and it will not become an obstacle to liberation, then in such a case you can offer your body. At that time your compassionate intent is pure, then offering the body is entirely appropriate. Next, let's talk about benefiting beings with the Dharma. Dharma should not be taught to those who lack respect, who though not sick, wear turbans or hold parasols or staves or weapons or veil their heads. This verse mainly teaches us how we should conduct ourselves when listening to the Dharma, that is, we should have proper deportment. I briefly introduced this topic at the beginning, but here the author gives a more detailed explanation. Otherwise, some people may not understand the basic deportment for listening to the Dharma, so everyone should understand how to behave when listening to the Dharma, because, in fact, the merit of listening to the Dharma is immense, as we discussed earlier. Moreover, the Buddha said in the Lotus Sutra, if there are those who listen to the Dharma, not one will fail to attain Buddhahood. This means that in this world, if one listens to the Dharma with devotion, directly or indirectly, one will certainly attain Buddhahood. But Patrul Rinpoche said, if the way of listening, motivation, and so on is not proper, not only will you not gain merit, but you will incur many faults. So, when listening, we should have proper deportment. We should not create negative karma through the Dharma. Instead, try to listen to the Dharma as properly as possible. So how? First, when listening to the Dharma, unless you are seriously ill, such as having a headache or a cold, it is best not to wear a hat. Or cover your head with cloth or clothing. This is not permitted. In fact, this is considered a sign of disrespect. Nowadays, some people often wear hats when listening to the Dharma, but this is very improper. I hope that in the future, whenever a teacher is teaching, those in the audience should not wear hats. This is not a rule unique to Tibetan Buddhism. The Buddha clearly stipulates in the Vinaya that there are 26 deportments to observe when teaching, and this is one of them. So when teachers are giving Dharma teachings, except for a few who are ill, it is best not to wear hats. I once saw a photo of a master teaching from the Dharma throne on a Hong Kong Buddhist magazine. When the master was teaching, all the lay people below were wearing hats of different colors. Although this was promotional material for spreading the Dharma, we could say it helped spread the Dharma in a way, but the result might not be as ideal. So, in the future, you can tell at a glance whether someone has received Buddhist education. If they wear a hat or wrap their head when listening to the Dharma, it is very improper. Everyone should pay attention to this. It is best not to wear hats, nor to wrap or cover your head with anything. When listening to the Dharma, you should sit upright and respectfully, and as some scriptures say, look at the teacher with a joyful gaze. This is also a proper attitude for listening to the Dharma. When listening to the Dharma, some people seem especially unhappy, pained, or sad. Although people have all kinds of emotions, such expressions are not appropriate in a Dharma setting. Some people even look angry, with an expression I cannot quite describe. In fact, during Dharma teaching, sometimes the behavior of the listeners can directly affect the mood of the teacher. It is not easy for the teacher, who teaches with great care and earnestly wishes to impart all their wisdom. They want to share what they have realized, but if the listener does not listen attentively and instead looks impatient or unhappy, it affects the teacher's mood. This is not in accordance with the proper manner for listening to the Dharma. As listeners, we should look at the teacher with joyful expression, sit below them and not be on the same level. This reflects the preciousness of the Dharma. In some Indian Buddhist colleges, whether attending a tutorial or a teaching, one first prostrates to the teacher. This is actually a way to destroy pride, and it is worth doing. It's not because the teacher needs to be placed high above others, but rather that we should have respect for the Dharma. The deportment described by the Buddha in the sutras must be observed. While receiving the Dharma, you should also not cover your head or hold an umbrella. For example, if the teaching is outdoors and the sun is strong and it makes you headache in the sun, if the teacher gives permission, then it is acceptable to use umbrella. When you obtain permission from the teacher, then wearing a hat, using a parasol, or covering your head is allowed. Otherwise, one cannot do that no matter under what circumstance. As you may recall, just as His Holiness did in the past, even if it rained or snowed, he would sometimes say, "Rain is nothing, snow is nothing, please do not use an umbrella." This was also to show respect for the Dharma. If it snowed, we would use our robes to cover the books in front of us so that snow would not fall on the books, but we would endure the snow falling on our heads. Also, you should not wear shoes when listening to the Dharma. In many places, this is not emphasized, so some people do not care about wearing shoes during teachings. In fact, the Buddha taught in scriptures that it is best to take off your shoes when listening to the Dharma. It's not appropriate to wear shoes while receiving the Dharma. In the past, when we were in the assembly hall, especially in the coldest winter, we really wanted to wear shoes, but out of respect for the Dharma, we did not, even when it was extremely cold, sitting on the cold cement floor. Nowadays, the conditions for receiving the Dharma are much better, so I hope you will follow these requirements. When receiving the Dharma, please do not wear a hat or shoes. It is also not allowed to hold weapons such as knives or guns. Of course, I think this is unlikely, as you would not bring such things to a Dharma teaching. Except for those who are seriously ill, it is also not permitted to hold a staff. In short, one must have respect for the teacher and for the Dharma. If there is no respect, it is best for the teacher not to give the teaching, because the Dharma is obtained through respect. If you have no respect at all, you cannot receive any benefit of Dharma. As Patrul Rinpoche said in the words of my perfect teacher, "With supreme respect and faith, you receive supreme blessings and benefit. With middling or lesser respect, you receive middling or lesser blessings. If you have no faith or respect at all, you will absolutely receive no benefit or blessing." Master Yingwang also said, "If you wish to realize the true meaning of Dharma, you must seek it through respect. With one portion of respect, one portion of evil is reduced, and one part merit and wisdom is increased." I believe this teaching contains profound meaning. No matter who you are, you should obtain the benefit of the Dharma through respect. In the past, when Gampopa was about to leave Milarepa, he asked, "Lama, when can I accept disciples?" Just like some people today, he was very eager to accept disciples right away. Milarepa replied, "When you develop the same kind of faith in me as you would in the Buddha, then you can accept disciples." This shows that when we develop extraordinary faith in our Lama and the Dharma, our realization will be high. I have always greatly admired Sogyal Rinpoche, the author of the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, who demonstrated extraordinary respect toward his lamas. When His Holiness went to France, he stayed there for about 10 days. Sogyal Rinpoche had no requirements regarding teaching for His Holiness. He only wanted His Holiness to be happy and not to be tired. Before that, we had gone to the United States, Canada, and several other countries. Some Westerners seem to treat Dharma as a transaction. Because one needs to pay for a Dharma lecture, they required His Holiness to teach strictly according to the schedule, and His Holiness became tired. When we finally arrived in France, Sogyal Rinpoche said, "Lama, just rest well. Here, you may teach or not as you wish. All the students are under my care, and as long as you are happy, that is enough." Without time constraints, His Holiness seemed very happy and said, "I will teach you the most profound Lama Yangthig, as well as several profound empowerments and transmissions." Many of you have probably read his work, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. In this book, it mainly teaches Bardo instructions, which can be found in Padmasambhava's Bardo instruction. Many Westerners and Southeast Asians think these teachings are very special. They can also be found in Tibetan Buddhism's Bardo Todol and Liberation Through Wearing. What impresses me most about Sogyal Rinpoche is every time he mentions his lamas, Dujom Rinpoche, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, Jamyang Khyentse, and others, every word reveals his deep respect and pure faith toward his lamas. Many of us may not have this, and we should reflect on ourselves. As disciples, if we wish to receive the benefit of the Dharma, we must rely on respect for our lamas. Even our ultimate realization depends on respect. Once in the past, after a long time in retreat, Jigme Gyalwai Nyugu went outside to rest. The blue sky was dotted with white clouds. As he gazed upward, he saw a white cloud drifting toward the direction where his root lama, Jigme Lingpa, lived. At that moment, a natural feeling of deep longing and respect for his teacher arose in his heart. He thought to himself, "My Lama is right under that white cloud." Such faith and respect arose within him. Overwhelmed by deep longing and inconceivable faith, he fainted. When he awoke, all the wisdom and compassion of Jigme Lingpa had merged into his mind. After that, he became an extraordinary lineage holder of the Longchen Nyingtik lineage. So, no matter what, it is truly important to show respect for the Lama, even just a single measure. Sometimes I would miss His Holiness so much. His Holiness used to say, "When I am alive, you may not have much faith, but after I leave this world, your faith in me may increase." Indeed, now whenever I listen to His Holiness's recordings, I am moved to tears listening with folded hands behind closed doors. I can do nothing but weep to relieve the longing in my heart. Whenever I listen to the teacher's recordings, I prefer to close the door and listen with folded hands in respect. I think that faith is indeed different when the Lama is present and when he is not. When His Holiness was present, I always thought, "Oh, today there will be teachings, tomorrow there will be teachings." And this attitude lasted for decades, but now, no matter what, we should have respect for any teacher who teaches the Dharma, whether it is Vajrayana or Sutrayana. Some people may think it is fine to respect a Lama with true qualities, but as for our tutors or Dharma teachers, do they have any qualities? If they have no such qualities, why should I respect them? This is a mistaken view that needs to be corrected. In fact, it is the Dharma that deserves our respect, no matter from whose mouth it comes. In the Jewel Casket Sutra, it is recorded that when Mara was teaching the Dharma, empowered by the Buddha, because it was the authentic Dharma that Mara was teaching, Manjushri and Shariputra both listened respectfully before him. They were not showing respect to Mara, but to the Dharma itself. So no matter how poor someone's quality may be, as long as the Dharma is authentic, you should listen with respect when they teach, even though they may lack good conduct or eloquence. We should know that respecting the teacher is not personal worship, but respect for the Dharma. Personally, in this regard, I can say I'm doing well throughout so many years of study. No matter which teacher or tutor it is, even if they taught me just a single teaching, I've always respected them sincerely. No matter where I meet them, I always think, "Oh, they once gave me the Dharma," because the Dharma in my mind did not come from just one person, but from many different sources. I am always very respectful toward anyone who once taught me. I hope that each of us will have a sincere respect for the Dharma. This is truly essential. The next verse says, "Don't teach the lesser, the vast and deep, or women unless a man is present." Approach with equal reverence foundational and higher Dharmas. As a male monastic teacher, one should not teach Dharma to a woman alone in a secluded place, nor teach especially profound Dharma to those of limited wisdom. Whether it is the teachings of the Hinayana or Mahayana, one should treat both profound and simple Dharma equally and not judge one as good and another as bad, for such discrimination certainly incurs the fault of slandering the Dharma. In terms of why a male monastic teacher shouldn't teach Dharma to women alone, actually this is a requirement in the Vinaya. When a bhikshu teaches Dharma to women, especially to bhikshunis, it must be done only after the Sangha has performed a karma ritual. There are two reasons. On one hand, the teacher may often be subject to slander, so the Buddha forbade teaching the Dharma to a woman alone. Another reason is that if there is a woman alone, it is easy to give rise to impure thoughts and thus break the root precepts. The greatly compassionate Buddha established special precepts for women in the scriptures, not out of unfairness, but because women tend to have certain afflictions that are different from men's due to physiological and karmic reasons. So women do have some afflictions that are different from men's. There is a story in the biographies of the 10 great disciples. Aniruddha, who had powerful divine vision, could see the Pure Land as well as the hell realms. Once he saw many of the Buddha's female disciples suffering in hell. He could not understand this, so he went to the Buddha and asked, "Why is it that so many women have faith in your teachings and take refuge, yet today I saw so many of them suffering in hell?" The Buddha told Aniruddha, "What you say is true. In my teachings there are indeed more women who have faith in the Dharma. Wherever I teach, there are more female lay practitioners. Among monastics, there are also more nuns." The Buddha said, "Indeed, there are more women who have faith in Buddhism. But as to why so many women are in hell, there are 3 reasons. Women have 3 stronger tendencies than men. In the morning, women are more likely to give rise to miserliness, always wishing how wonderful it would be to possess all the wealth and treasures of the world. This kind of attachment and miserliness arises. At midday, they are more likely to feel jealousy, thinking that many people are obstacles to them or do not like them. Third, in the evening, their desire is strongest. Many women give rise to desire, feeling lonely, and wishing for the company of the opposite sex, and thus generating various afflictions. Because women often give rise to these 3 afflictions, namely miserliness, jealousy, and desire, there are more women falling into the lower realms than men. So it is not that the Buddha was unfair, imposing more precepts on women. For female Dharma friends here, now that you have the chance to hear the Dharma, make good use of it. Don't let jealousy or desire arise toward teachers or peers, as this will become an obstacle to your practice and lead you to the lower realms, truly terrifying. When teaching Dharma as a monastic bhikshu, teaching a woman alone leads to disrespect and slander from the public, as I mentioned earlier. Master Jimin from Han Buddhism once told a story. There was a young Dharma teacher from the same era as Master Nenhai, about 20 years old. He was very good at teaching, so many people liked to receive Dharma from him, and many respected and took refuge in him. Among them was a female university student who was very diligent and often came to ask him about the Dharma. The teacher enjoyed answering her questions, but over time they developed feelings for each other, and he wanted to return to lay life and marry her. But the girl's family was special. Her father was a person of status. She said, "If you really want to be with me, you must first publicly announce your voluntary return to lay life. Only then will I agree." So he paid to publish the announcement. After it was published, he thought everything would be fine now and happily went to her home. But her parents were very unhappy and said, "We used to respect you as a Dharma teacher, but we never expected you to be after our daughter. From now on, you are not allowed in." They didn't open the door, but poured a bucket of cold water on him from upstairs, splash, right over his head. The girl was also scolded and did not dare to see him again. As a result, the Dharma teacher lost his precepts and did not get the girl. He only got a bucket of cold water. So from some historical cases, we can see why this is something to be careful about. For those of lesser wisdom, such as those with Hinayana faculties, since their faculties and motivation are not in line with Mahayana, we shouldn't teach them Mahayana teachings on emptiness, the 6 paramitas, such as giving of one's body or the profound instructions of Vajrayana. If we do, they may reject them. So we should always observe carefully in this regard. Also, we should treat both profound and simple Dharma equally with the same respect. Why? The Dharma taught by the Buddha out of great compassion, whether Hinayana or Mahayana, is all a cause for our liberation, directly or indirectly. If you say the Hinayana is good and the Mahayana is not, or that Sutrayana is good and Vajrayana is not, you will definitely incur the fault of slandering the Dharma. The sutra on the collection of all dharmas says, "Manjushri, if someone discriminates among the teachings of the Sugata, thinking some are excellent and some are inferior, then they have already abandoned the true Dharma." Slandering the Dharma is a crime easy to commit. Everyone must remember this. Nowadays, some teachers say, our Pure Land school is the best. It is the only definitive teaching among all the thousands of sutras and treatises, and all other teachings are provisional, so you shouldn't study them. according to the above teaching, saying this is to think some are excellent and some are inferior, which is already slandering the Dharma. This is one of the two great obstacles for one to be reborn in the Pure Land. If a Vajrayana teacher says, my Dzogchen, my tantric teachings are the essence of all Dharma, the very best. You don't need to study the Hinayana, Pure Land, or Chan. Just study my teachings. If they promote this way, they are also slandering the Dharma. Many of us have studied. The Lamrim Chenmo and Je Tsongkhapa explains this in great detail. So we must always be careful not to say that other teachings are not supreme or not worth studying. We should understand that the Buddha taught different Dharma to beings of different capacities. This is the skillful means the Buddha compassionately adopted in order to guide beings. Okay, we'll stop here for today.
Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye